Hi, I'm Dan. Thanks for checking in on Dimgaard. So I ran a session of the ongoing campaign that we're working on. It'll be published in the spring of 2022 probably. Um, and so I'm running weekly groups through this. And the session last night was with some 14th level characters. And this doesn't have to do with the mechanics. There were some things that happened that as in reflecting, I thought, yeah, that's probably something I could share that might be beneficial to other DMs and players. So, just a high level overview. The storyline is there's this monstrosity collective, like think of the Borg in D&D, Borg from Star Trek and D&D, that is invading from another dimension. And so then the PCs are reacting to prevent that takeover. And so the session last night had to do with a population of bullywugs who had been taken over by this collective and assimilated into the hive mind, and so and were causing trouble, had to be conquered. And so the structure, right? So this collective is very hierarchical, and it's controlled by a population is controlled, like organized and coordinated by a central figure called the controller. So you overtake the controller, and then that severs the individual's links with the hive mind collective, the collective hive mind, and then you can take steps to separate the individuals from that. And the PCs at this point at 14th level have done this process with variations several times. So they kind of understand it's kind of been established. Eliminate the controller, bring in spellcasters to do the necessary things to separate the subordinated assimilated people back into their good state. So everything rolls out great. The PCs break through the defenses, eliminate the controller. Now they've got 150 of these bullywug commoners, and so the PCs are 14th level. These are just bullywug commoners. They're not a threat, but they are still members of this collective. And if the collective reestablishes a controller, then the situation is just right back to where it was. But unlike other populations, right? So the previous populations had been humans and like some dragonkin and some dwarves, all of whom had, allies who would come in and say, "Oh, okay, thank you for separating this population, and now we're going to bring in our own clerics to cast Greater Restoration and get these people back to what they were at a cost of 100 gold pieces a pop." Right? Those people can work it off, or maybe they had those resources already. But anyway, there were natural allies of the newly freed population that could eliminate the effect of the collective simulation. Bullywugs don't have that, right? Bullywugs are vermin. They're in their natural state. People try to exterminate them. They're not going to come in and say, "Oh, thank you." There's no one out there who's saying, "Thank you for severing them from the collective. Now we will free them, give them back their free will so that they can be fully functional, active bullywugs." And so, so this was the type of complication that really Dimgaard is built around, right? Because the players, as in a metagame sense, they establish this pattern, they go in, they follow the pattern, and then when the pattern reaches its terminus, they're like, "Oh wow, yeah, that's a weird situation. We had not thought about that. So what are we going to do?" So there's no good choice here. This is a true dilemma. And this is also a dilemma that historical populations, historically conquerors, would come into, and they would have different solutions. Some like the Mongols, if they're like, okay, we have we've conquered this population. They're never going to be good members of the empire. They're always going to be rebellious. All right, we're going to kill them. We're going to commit genocide. Or you had like the Romans who said, okay, we're going to enforce these very stringent autocracies to control them. They're basically make them a slave population, right? And even amongst those type of structures, eventually those control mechanisms would break down, and you would have, every subordinate population within the Roman Empire, at some point over the Roman Empire's history, engaged in rebellion. I mean, the most notable being the Jewish rebellions, but everyone, like the the various Germanic tribes, had every generation would engage in a rebellion against the controls of the. And so anyway, and then we have the PCs. The PCs are new nobles. They've just established a county prior to the activity. So they're not even in a good position to establish those type of mechanisms. Then, so you've got genocide is the most direct solution to the problem, but it is genocide with today's values attached to that, rightly so. And then in the D&D cosmos, even though it is not expected to be, fully functioning egalitarian society the way that we aspire to today, or Star Trek does, there are still forward-thinking entities in the cosmos that are going to view very negatively an act of genocide by the PCs. Then you've got, all right, well, we'll just turn them over to someone else. Okay, well, when that happens, they're either going to be enslaved, they're going to be sacrificed to form magic items. That's a Dimgaard thing. You can look that up, which is even worse than being enslaved or murdered. Or the third party is just going to give up on them and kill them all themselves. So there's no good solution to what to do with these 150 free Bullywug commoners after now in this session last night, the PCs turned them over to a neighboring population of sea elves to say, you take care of them, do whatever you want to with them. And they did that. Like I said, the PCs have a new territory, a new fiefdom. It's called a march because it's a border military-oriented county. But and they did that as a tribute to the sea elves, where they're establishing a diplomatic relationship. And then after the session, the sea elves said, "Thank you so much for this Bullywug population. We are in the process of converting them all to various magic items. Here's a ring of jumping for you as the first item produced from these 150 Bullywugs." So these Bullywugs, the sea elves intend to bind their immortal souls to form magic items. I don't know what effect that is going to have on the PCs when they begin to digest the fact that they have just committed the souls of 150 sentient creatures to be bound eternally to magic items by the sea elves, who view them as just simply vermin and are looking at the best way to exploit that resource for their culture. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting. But then there was a very minor thing. So it goes, this is what happens over time. So the PCs have moved underwater, like this. The last several sessions have occurred in an undersea environment, and so they've encountered populations of Lokotha, Huatoa, Bullywugs, sea elves, and Tritons so far. And so among So they have an awkward language, right? That's a language is in D&D in general, but it's not really defined. There's no like if you go out to build a script around it, like look for a script in a document. There's no Aquan script. There's stuff that looks like oh yeah, that could be Dwarven rune script or Elvish script, but there's nothing out there that you look at that. It looks Aquan. But over time, uh, things evolve regarding these languages. So amongst the Aquan language, we now have a defined term of the first or one of the first of our vocabulary for Aquan, and it is Gerbl, G-R-B-L, and it is the Aquan term for just a standard member of the race, just like a base level commoner. So a, a baseline Bullywug commoner is called a Gerbl. A baseline Wakatha is called a Gerbl, right? By anyone who's speaking Aquan. So yeah. So anyway, that was just kind of there. There have been other things like now it is part of the 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 orc language in Dimgaard that Durka Durka means it's time for us to go to war against the occupier. It's like a very succinct way to say jihad type activities amongst the orcs in Dimgaard. It's like Durka Durka, let's go fight the occupying power. That comes out of Team America. Um, but anyway, so those were some good things that came out of last night's session. If you find them useful or entertaining or interesting, please smash that like button. It does help the video get seen by more people, helps the channel, helps the Dimgaard campaign in general. Always like to invite people to engage me. And that's beginning to work, probably because we're starting to publish again, so there's some more visibility there too. So people are reaching out to me in various places, which I appreciate and enjoy thoroughly. So continue that. Find me on Facebook or Twitter or Reddit. By all means, check in and I would love that. So yeah, keep up the engagement. Thank you for checking in on Dimgaard, and see you next week.